Welcome, dear viewer. As the world outside softens into quiet and the last light of day slips below the horizon, come with us on a journey through time. Tonight, we'll gently explore the long and layered story of a land that became one of the most influential nations on Earth. But we won't hurry. Instead, we'll move slowly like a river, winding through valleys, like soft footsteps on ancient trails. The story of the United States is vast, but here it will unfold peacefully, like a memory told in whispers. So find a comfortable place to rest your thoughts. Let the worries of the day drift away. The winds of time are gentle tonight. And as you watch, you'll walk through forests older than maps, meet voices long silenced by years, and trace the rise of a country born not in a single moment, but in the steady rhythm of human effort and dream. We begin not with presidents or cities, but with the quiet song of the land itself long before any borders, before any name like America was ever spoken aloud. Long ago, thousands of years before skyscrapers reached for clouds or ships crossed the ocean, this land stretched wide and wild, untouched by the world that would later come. Forests thick with pine and oak, deserts that shimmered with heat, rivers that roared and whispered, mountains capped with snow like sleeping giants. And here, life already thrived. Native peoples called this land home, not in fragments, but in deep-rooted civilizations that understood the rhythms of earth and sky. The Iroquois in the east, builders of longhouses and leagues of peace. The Sioux on the open plains, following buffalo across the seasons. The Navajo, weaving memory into cloth, and the Mississippians, raising mounds that touched the heavens. There were hundreds of nations, each with stories, songs, languages, and sacred traditions. They honored the land not as something to own, but as something to care for. Imagine for a moment the gentle hush of a forest before sunrise, the scent of cedar in the wind, and drums echoing softly through a valley. These were not primitive lives, but wise and rich ones, filled with connection and meaning. The story of America begins with these voices. They are not lost. They are part of the soil, still whispering if we know how to listen. Carried by curiosity, ambition, and the hunger for new lands, European explorers arrived on these shores. First came the Spanish, with their shimmering armor and foreign gods. Then the French, the Dutch, and the English, each bringing pieces of the old world into this untamed one. The coastlines became dotted with forts and trading posts. Timber cabins emerged from wilderness. In 1607, Jamestown took root in Virginia. In 1620, the Mayflower arrived, bringing pilgrims to a wind-swept shore they named Plymouth. Life in the colonies was harsh, bitter winters, hunger and fear, but the people endured. Over time, 13 colonies stretched up and down the Atlantic coast, growing into small towns, farms, and trading hubs. These settlers, though different in origin, began to develop a new identity, not quite British, not fully European. They tilled the soil of a strange land, and in doing so, something new began to grow. A sense of self, a quiet questioning of kings, and a restless spirit that would not stay still for long. Even then, the winds of change stirred gently in the trees. The colonies were prosperous, yet felt the grip of a distant monarchy, rules and taxes sent from across the ocean, with no voice in return. No taxation without representation, they whispered. Then they shouted. Protests turned into resistance. The Boston Tea Party. Midnight rides through dark woods. The first crack of musket fire at Lexington and Concord. The Revolutionary War had begun. It was a war of ideals as much as land. A bold declaration in 1776 gave voice to a dream. All men are created equal. That idea echoed louder than any cannon. For years, the colonies fought against the might of the British Empire. In 1781, they prevailed, and by 1789, a constitution was written carefully, slowly, with quill and candlelight. The United States of America was no longer a dream. It was a new nation, imperfect but determined. A republic if it could be kept. And so, the long walk into the unknown began. With independence secured, the young nation looked westward. Land, open and endless, stretched before them like a canvas. In 1803, the Louisiana Purchase doubled the country's size. Lewis and Clark followed rivers into forests no map had charted. Settlers crossed plains in covered wagons, chasing golden dreams and open space. Railroads were hammered into the soil. Towns sprang up where once there had been only wind and stars, but expansion came with sorrow. The trail of tears carried tens of thousands across frozen lands, many never reaching the end. Still, the nation grew restless, ambitious, blind to its own contradictions. In 1849, gold fever consumed the West. In the South, cotton and slavery built wealth upon suffering. Immigrants arrived from Ireland, Germany, China seeking hope, building railways, digging canals, facing hardship, and planting roots. The United States was growing, but not all voices were heard, and not all dreams were shared. A storm was coming, even if the skies still seemed clear. The mid-1800s brought a reckoning. Slavery, the shadow beneath the nation's promise of freedom, had become too heavy to ignore. The North, with its growing industries, opposed it. The South, with its plantations and traditions, defended it. The country split along invisible lines of belief and blood. In 1861, war erupted. The Civil War was brutal. Over 4 years, cities burned, fields ran red, and families were torn apart. More Americans died in that war than in any other. Abraham Lincoln, tall and quiet, carried the weight of a divided nation on his shoulders. He spoke of unity, of healing, and of a better future. In 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation declared enslaved people free in the eyes of the law. 2 years later, the Union stood victorious. Slavery was abolished, but the scars ran deep. The South lay in ruin. Freed people faced new struggles in a land slow to change. Reconstruction began hopeful and fragile. For a moment, new rights took root. But resistance soon rose, and injustice found new forms. Still, the nation moved forward, wounded but alive, forever changed by fire and by blood. As the 19th century closed, the United States entered an age of invention. The Industrial Revolution transformed cities into hives of smoke and steel. Trains raced across the land. Telegraph wires whispered across mountains. Thomas Edison lit up the night. Henry Ford put America on wheels. Immigrants continued to arrive, welcomed by the statue in New York Harbor, tired, poor, yearning to breathe free. They settled in crowded neighborhoods, built railroads, dug coal, sewed garments, opened shops. Every city became a mosaic of cultures. Labor strikes and factory bells filled the air. Child workers with soot-covered hands dreamed of more. Slowly, the middle class grew. Skyscrapers pierced the clouds. Jazz spilled from windows. Women demanded the vote. The country was no longer rural and quiet. It was humming, rising, dreaming. And though shadows remained, of poverty, of prejudice, there was a powerful belief in progress. That anything, perhaps, was possible. In 1917, the world called, and America answered. World War I dragged the United States onto foreign soil. Trenches, gas, loss. The country returned shaken, but determined. The 1920s roared with jazz and flappers, new dances, new machines. Radios buzzed with voices, but joy turned to sorrow. In 1929, the Great Depression crushed the economy. Banks failed, homes were lost. Bread lines grew. Dust storms buried the plains. Yet, once again, resilience emerged. Franklin D. Roosevelt took office and calmed the storm with steady words and bold action. The New Deal brought jobs, hope, and a blueprint for recovery. Then, just as healing began, another war arrived. World War II pulled the nation into battle once more. Factories produced weapons. Women built ships. Soldiers landed on beaches half a world away. In 1945, the war ended. The world had changed, and America, now a superpower, stood at its center. With cities untouched and its economy booming, the next chapter was already waiting. Suburbs bloomed. Television flickered in every living room. Rock and roll shook old traditions. Baby boomers filled classrooms. But even in prosperity, inequality endured. In the Jim Crow South, Black Americans faced segregation and violence. But they rose, peacefully, powerfully. Rosa Parks stayed seated. The country listened slowly, painfully, and began to change. In 1969, America reached the moon. One small step echoed from space to Earth. The Cold War simmered. Vietnam divided hearts. Protests filled the streets. Feminism gained strength. Indigenous voices demanded justice. The country was evolving, fighting, failing, learning. Every step forward brought resistance, but also progress. And in the background, a quiet truth remained. The dream of America, though tested, had not died. It had only grown more complex. As the 20th century came to a close, a new age arrived, one powered by silicon and screens. The internet reshaped how people lived, worked, and dreamed. Emails replaced letters. Search engines replaced libraries. Cell phones became lifelines. The Cold War ended with the fall of the Berlin Wall. The Soviet Union collapsed. And then, on a clear September morning in 2001, tragedy struck. Two towers fell in New York City. Smoke rose and the world watched. But once again, Americans stood together. From grief came unity. The war on terror began. Life changed airports, headlines, conversations. Yet even through this, the country continued to build, invent, and create. A black man, Barack Obama, became president in 2008, a symbol of how far the dream had come. Social media connected and divided people. Debates grew louder. The economy shifted. Crises came. Yet so did innovation. So did resilience. So did the enduring desire to move forward. Today, the United States stands as a symbol of both power and paradox. It holds the world's largest economy, immense military strength, and cultural influence that spans continents. Silicon Valley shapes the future. Wall Street fuels global markets. Universities lead in research and medicine. Yet within its borders, debates rage about justice, about freedom, about truth. But perhaps this too is part of the nation's design. Not perfect unity, but constant striving. A democracy still learning, a people still becoming. From skyscrapers in New York to quiet farms in Kansas, from bustling ports to sunlit deserts, America's vast, diverse in every sense. It is noisy, beautiful, troubled, and alive. And though it faces challenges ahead, it does so as it always has, not with certainty, but with belief. That tomorrow can be better, that change is always possible, that the story is not over. So now, dear viewer, you've drifted through centuries. From silent forests and sacred fires to roaring engines and starry skies. The United States was not born in an instant. It was shaped slowly, painfully, brilliantly by millions of hands and hearts, and it continues to evolve. A living story still unfinished. Tonight, let those chapters settle softly in your mind. The battles, the breakthroughs, the quiet acts of courage, the voices that challenged, the ones that healed, the ones still rising. Sleep in the knowledge that history is not just past, it is present. It is alive in every step, every voice, every hope. And as you rest, know that the journey never truly ends. It only deepens. And if you'd like to wander gently through more stories like this one, feel free to subscribe. We'll be right here with another quiet journey through time whenever you wish to return.